The reality is that guy's partying, and he's partying real hard. And he talked about it in the court case. You know, he's talking about cocaine. Like that was the whole thing, that we're all doing cocaine. And
saying is this: when you knock a champion who's been that dominant and that good for 10 years out in 14 seconds,
13.
there is a question, which is, was that in some ways a fluke?
Joe Rogan, the UFC legend, just destroyed Jake Paul vs. Conor McGregor because he pointed out what everyone else was ignoring. You see, Rogan isn't exactly a fan of the whole YouTuber-turned-boxer gimmick Jake Paul, who somehow thinks he can take on McGregor, who's been bouncing off the ropes ever since his Mayweather fight.
That's him now. He's super jacked.
He looks like a bodybuilder.
See, that's what he looks like now. He's still jacked. Still looks great. He looks good, though.
Whoa.
He looks so old now.
He looks different.
Perhaps the most important fight of your career. Give us your thoughts on this rematch. He should have killed me when he had the chance, because now I'm back and I'm going to kill you and your whole team. You and their kids. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants. That's what I dreamed into reality.
Well, Rogan's here to remind us all that Paul isn't the unbeatable god he thinks he is. I mean, the guy's got 1 million followers and even more delusion. But does that actually mean he can knock out a fighter like McGregor?
Don't aspire to be, one of these like YouTuber fighters.
Right.
Aspire for world titles.
So, let's break down Rogan's savage take on the Paul versus McGregor circus, because this is going to be a ride.
And that is that a lot of fighters, when they've sustained a significant amount of damage.
And no, this wasn't about analyzing their strengths or figuring out who would win. This was Joe's chance to let loose and have a little fun with the whole situation. First of all, Jake Paul, the YouTuber-turned-boxer, seems to be having the time of his life trolling everyone. And Rogan? Well, he had some choice words for Paul's boxing career and his ability to draw attention. He flat out called Jake a master troll. But hey, let's give credit where it is due. Jake's marketing skills are top tier. The guy is a circus ringmaster and everyone's paying attention, even if it's just to see the chaos unfold. Rogan doesn't hold back when talking about Jake Paul's boxing skills. He acknowledges that Jake has knocked out some well-known fighters, even if they're all past their prime. Guys like Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, and Anderson Silva. According to Rogan, if Jake wasn't a YouTuber, people might take him more seriously as a boxer. But let's face it, his YouTube background always undermines that. Still, Rogan admits the guy's got real power in his hands, even if the competition hasn't exactly been top tier.
Now I think people are coming around. I say, if this kid was not a YouTuber, if he wasn't some guy that you knew from the time he was like 16 years old on YouTube, and you just saw him box, and you saw him knock out former UFC champions, you saw him beat legitimate boxers, or beat athletes, and beat a bunch of MMA fighters, you'd go, this kid can fight. He knows how to fight. Nothing he's doing looks wrong. He's not like sticking his head straight up in the air and winging punches with his eyes closed. He's fighting well.
Then there's Conor McGregor, the former UFC golden boy who's been spiraling for a while now. Rogan, ever the truth teller, has some harsh words for McGregor's fall from grace. Rogan says McGregor's biggest downfall wasn't a lack of skill. It was his self-destructive tendencies. All that fame and money? It hit McGregor like a ton of bricks. When he was on top of the world, he was unstoppable, constantly bragging and talking trash. But somewhere along the way, he lost it. It's almost like the fame got to his head, and the guy just couldn't stop partying. Yeah, McGregor is still jacked, but it's not enough to distract from the fact that his life's been a dumpster fire lately. And we're talking a real mess, like legal troubles, failed business ventures, and just an overall reputation that's taking a nosedive.
He looks good. And if he was just an up-and-coming boxer that was this exciting, like highly promotable, like really good at selling fights, you'd be like, this kid's the future.
Rogan doesn't sugarcoat it. McGregor was the guy who was supposed to be the best ever. He was supposed to dominate the sport, right? And for a while he did. He knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. became the first fighter to hold 2 UFC titles simultaneously, and had the world at his feet. But McGregor's story doesn't end there, does it? No, Rogan points out that McGregor hit his peak, and then, well, it all started to crumble. Between trashing buses, having bizarre altercations with other fighters, and generally acting like a circus performer in and out of the cage, McGregor's fall from grace has been, let's just say, entertaining, but also kind of tragic.
I don't know if Conor's ever going to fight again.
What's happening with his the civil suit? He's being dropped by all his companies or something?
Yeah, I don't know the real details of that case, but the reality is that guy's partying, and he's partying real hard.
Let's talk about the famous bus incident, where McGregor threw a dolly, a metal trolley, at a bus containing his UFC rivals. Yeah, that happened. Rogan's analysis? It was pure, chaotic McGregor behavior that no one should have been shocked by. McGregor's actions got him into some pretty serious legal trouble, which, let's face it, doesn't exactly scream world champion material. But Rogan, being Rogan, doesn't just stop at pointing out McGregor's antics. He goes all in, criticizing McGregor's inability to focus and his now legendary partying lifestyle. Apparently, there's been some talk about cocaine, wild nights out, and general debauchery. So yeah, McGregor's still trying to make a comeback, but the dude is also in a heap of personal and legal issues. It's hard to take him seriously when you see him swerving into every lane except the fighting one.
Which is, Dylan Dennis is a professional fighter. He's a professional fighter. He jumps out, he takes a swing at him. They're screaming, and Dylan's like, "Fuck you," and he's like, "Fuck you," and there's a bunch of people get involved, and then a bunch of other people jump in. The whole thing was nuts. But the idea that we should be shocked after him throwing a dolly at a bus because Khabib's on the bus, those Russians don't fucking play like that, man.
Yeah.
And then there's the little matter of McGregor's legal troubles. From being dropped by sponsors to dealing with a civil suit, McGregor's career has become a blur of chaos. A woman in Dublin accused McGregor of assaulting her, and well, it hasn't exactly been the PR boost he was hoping for. But Rogan doesn't just mention it in passing. He gives it the weight it deserves. McGregor's life is a total mess, and it's impacting his legacy. McGregor can keep posting cryptic Instagram videos of himself working out, but let's face it, this guy's not the same. The fire, the passion, and the charisma that made him a superstar, gone.
Who accused the mixed martial arts fighter Conor McGregor of raping her in a hotel in Dublin 6 years ago, has won a civil case against him. The jury has found McGregor liable and ordered him to pay Nikita Hand €250,000 in damages.
And then there's the whole comeback talk. McGregor's teasing it, sure, but it's hard to take him seriously when everything he touches turns to dust. After his gruesome leg injury in 2021, fans were left wondering if we'd ever see the McGregor of old again. But here's the thing. McGregor's not just recovering physically, he's got a mountain of other problems. No one really knows what the future holds for him. Rogan's not optimistic about his return, especially with all the drama and his focus being more on partying than training.
UFC fighter Conor McGregor has been accused of sexually assaulting a woman after an NBA basketball game in Miami earlier this month. A legal letter outlining the allegations was sent to Mr. McGregor and seen by BBC News. It says the alleged assault took place in a bathroom at an arena in Miami. The woman's lawyer said she'd been watching Game 4 of the finals on Friday the 9th of June before the alleged incident happened. She alleged the woman was forced into a men's bathroom by security guards from the NBA and Miami Heat before being violently assaulted by Mr. McGregor.
Well, not so fast. Rogan, ever the realist, pointed out that Jake has been training like a madman and isn't just some washed-up social media personality trying to punch above his weight. Sure, the guy's a YouTuber at heart, but Rogan's not having any of that. He straight up called Jake legit after seeing his performance against Tyron Woodley. No more jokes about Paul not being a real fighter. Joe admitted it. Jake Paul could knock you out if you're not careful. Sure, Rogan acknowledges that Jake's fight IQ may not be on the same level as an elite UFC fighter, but let's not pretend Jake isn't out here throwing hands in a real sport. The guy's been sparring with pro boxers, working with Canelo and Ryan Garcia. Jake's definitely not playing around in the gym.
Good match for Conor. Is that ever happening? Or
I don't know if Conor's ever going to fight again.
what's happening with his he just got like the civil suit,
Yeah.
or whatever, and he's being dropped by all his companies or something.
Yep.
Now, don't get Joe wrong. He's still giving McGregor the benefit of the doubt when it comes to striking. After all, McGregor made his name on precision and devastating power. But the story's a little more complex than that, isn't it? McGregor's life has been one of excess since that Mayweather fight. It's not just the money and fame, it's the fact that Conor's been through a lot more in the cage than people realize. Think about it. McGregor was living his best life, but not exactly in a way that was good for his career. Partying, injury setbacks, the leg break, the public meltdowns, everything Rogan's pointed out has added up to a fighter who's not exactly in his prime anymore. A big part of McGregor's downfall, according to Rogan, was the fact that he couldn't resist the temptation of the lavish lifestyle that his success brought. As Rogan sees it, McGregor's self-destruction wasn't just about getting older. It was about having too much money, too much fame, and not enough discipline to keep him on track.
As a boxer?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And listen, what Jake Paul has accomplished is he's fighting old guys.
Yes.
He's fighting, all he fights are old guys and whatever. But listen, say what you want, he wins. And he makes money. So he's doing his thing, you know?
And that's where Jake Paul's growing legitimacy comes into play. Say what you want about the guy's antics and cringeworthy online presence, but he's no slouch when it comes to boxing. In fact, Rogan takes a moment to talk about how Jake's career has taken a serious turn toward the professional end of things. He's been taking real fights, he's been training seriously, and you better believe that's been helping his profile. So yeah, while Jake might have started as a celebrity boxer, he's quickly evolving into someone who knows how to throw hands, and the world is starting to recognize that. But here's the problem McGregor faces. He's out of the game. Joe's blunt about it. McGregor, despite his vast talents, has a long history of bad decisions, bad injuries, and bad habits that don't exactly make him an ideal contender for a comeback. The moment he retired, Conor started slipping away from his prime. Sure, he might still have the skills to be dangerous, but how much of that killer instinct remains after all the fame and money? That's the question Rogan keeps circling back to.
Jake Paul, it's clear to me you are desperate for a reality check. You know what? If I made my money impressing 4-year-olds on YouTube and managed to somehow become a multimillionaire from it, I'd probably live in a dream world too. But let me explain something to you about combat sports. There are a whole bunch of men out here who will never be as famous as you, will never make the money you've made, who would kick the living fuck out of you. This is the hardest sport in the world, and people dedicate their lives to this, and most of them never get a payday. It never pays off for the majority of fighters, all of which would fuck you up.
So what's the bottom line? Is Jake Paul capable of beating McGregor in a boxing ring? According to Joe Rogan, it's not out of the question. McGregor's been through too many wars, too many injuries, and too many distractions. Meanwhile, Jake's been putting in the work. He's getting better. Not just in terms of his boxing, but also in terms of his mental game. McGregor, on the other hand, might still be a beast on his best day. But how many of those best days does he have left? Rogan might not have a definitive answer, but his commentary sure makes it clear. Jake Paul isn't the joke that people think he is, and Conor McGregor's time may have passed.